Thank you for having me today. I'd like to give a couple of disclaimers before I get started. This is a controlled, unclassified information briefing. All materials, including the pictures, have been released from the DoD for information purposes. Today are going to be some techniques, and procedures that my team and I were able to accomplish, measure our effectiveness over this last deployment with Task Force Spartan. I'm going to be talking again about my own experiences. Some of the slides that I'm going to present may be from Joint Doctorate as well. I want to introduce you to some of the things that are in the room right now. Typically, as a civil affairs officer, I'm not going to be inside a brick and mortar building with the rest of the staff. I'm going to be out either working inside the embassies, or I'm going to be working on special projects. In order to do that, it would require me to wear civilian clothes. This is typically what you would see me in, usually a jacket. I've got a couple of buttons here, Special Olympics, the Paralympic Society. Sometimes I wear something local, dress shoes. But when I'm leaving the base, I'm always dressed for comfort and speed. Today, I've tried to set up today's presentation as a DWNIA. I go to a lot of DWNIAs to talk to Department of State folks. And so today I have some things here in the room. I'm going to talk to you about what a DWNIA is, but I kind of wanted to set the environment, kind of shape the environment, and kind of let you see what our soldiers see when they're deployed and they're invited to a DWNIA. So you have different kinds of tea sets. You've got treats. You've got some perfumes. That's probably the most remarkable thing that you'll notice when you walk into a room is the sweet smell of coffee, tea, and treats when you come in. The bright colors of the clothing, a lot of the clothing will have pictures on there. You're working through a lot of different languages and cultures, so sometimes stories are printed on scarves and wall hangings. Lots of sugar. But we'll dive into that. But a DWNIA comes with a little bit of protocol. So we'll talk about that now. So when you're in a DWNIA, only one person speaks at a time. It's a safe circle. There's no judgment. And you come prepared to talk about hard things. And everybody wants to gather in the circle and accomplish whatever that complex problem might be. So it's usually the elders of the community that will come forward. The DWNIAs can last for maybe 3 to 4 hours at a time. So there's also DWANSMIAs, which is where you are allowed to talk about God. You are allowed to talk about politics and maybe some extreme behaviors. But DWNIAs, the disclaimer is, we do not talk about extreme behaviors. We do not talk about politics, and we're not going to talk about religious things. But today, again, I just want to say thank you for having me, and welcome to the DWNIA. So the projector is not working, so we're going to operate off the laptop here. So if you can see this, this is my team and I. There are actually a total of 7 of us that deployed as the Civil Military Operations team. You'll see just 5 here. So this is me here in the middle, surrounded by the world's finest Army professionals in the civil affairs community. So 2 are not pictured here. We've just come into Kuwait in this picture. One soldier had to be sent forward to a refugee camp to help move supplies, more specifically food and medical supplies. And then the other soldier that's not pictured here is working at an embassy there in the Levant region. I'll keep it moving. So here we are, 5 individuals ready to tackle 3 countries, 1 campaign plan, lots of mini operations, 3 lines of efforts, lots of sleepless nights, long runs, many air miles on a gray plane, gray tug cargo plane, a refugee camp, a safe haven for our Afghan friends, and at times 130-degree weather. So it was a lot of good and bad stress. But I'm proud to report that 3 members here on the team were promoted throughout our deployment, and one of them earned a Bronze Star. So we had a lot of work to do, and more importantly, we had a lot to celebrate at the end. So I'm going to talk about that today. So moving left to right, you have a New York City fire paramedic, you have a teacher from England, you have myself, I'm an inspector general, full-time, we have a gender advisor for the U.S. Army, and another New York City policeman. Again, a lot of work ahead of us, and so this shows us fresh with no mistakes, but we're ready to move some mountains. So we'll move on to the next slide here, if you'll allow me to do that. Okay, having a little bit of technical difficulties here. This is not wanting to cooperate. Okay, so we have an agenda today. We're going to talk about shaping the environment. We're going to talk about some important relationships, how to deter the enemy, and we're just going to keep cruising here. See if I can move. Did any of the other speakers have problems like this? Okay, so most people want to know, what does a G9 do? Well, I don't want to talk about what a G9 does. I want to talk about the effects of what civil affairs, information operations. I want to talk to you today about the effects and the shaping environment of that. So one of the things I want to start off with today is some of the things that I learned, some of the things that were said to me, whether it be by a soldier, a child, or a civilian. So here's some of the things that really got to my heart on this deployment. One soldier said, "I've never seen so many smiles. I made a lot of memories. I saw happiness for the first time. I saw empowerment." One little girl said, "I learned how to walk into a room." Another little girl said, "I learned how to sit at the table. I know how to be on a team for the first time. I have gratitude, perseverance, integrity, patience. I learned a new communication skill that could include, now that I know a new language. I learned about play therapy. I learned about new foods, relaxing, dancing, games, culture, shared understanding. And most importantly, I learned how to be a better person, and I made a best friend." So again, these are just a few comments that kind of stuck with me while we were working Operation Spartan Shield. So the possibilities are endless at the tactical level effects. And it might not seem like a much, but for a civil affairs officer, that really is deterring the enemy and shaping the environment. Move to the next slide. Women's peace and security. So this is one of my lines of efforts as a civil affairs officer. I'm going to be looking at all the country plans that my team and I are going to go into. WPS, Women's Peace and Security, was on every country plan that we were working in. So most people are going to say, well, what is Women's Peace and Security, and why would we talk about it? And WPS, now I got a new acronym to learn. But in short, it's a policy framework that recognizes that women must be critical actors in all efforts to achieve sustainable international peace and security. It promotes a gendered perspective and women's equal and meaningful participation in the peace process, peace building and security. So this is where I want to encourage each of you to do your own data homework and amplify your message and shape your circle, shape your environment, and share your experiences with women's peace and security. And I'm going to tell you how here over the next few slides. So this is what women's peace and security looks like to Amanda Harrah. Might look a little different for each of you, but this is what it looks like for me. And you might ask, why women's peace and security? Again, it is because women do live longer. Men are absolutely important to this, but we speak more languages, we are more educated, we know how to multitask, and we are some of the best peace negotiators. Women are more likely to be displaced during conflict, 80% more, and women also have a higher threshold for pain. most of us are successful today because of a woman in our life. I think we can all agree on that fact. Women are well positioned to detect early signs of radicalization. And because fundamentalists often target women's rights first, as security officials, women provide insights and information that can be mission critical in keeping the peace. And because of this distinctive access and influence, women are crucial anti-terrorism messengers in schools, religious institutions, social environments, and local government. And I want to quote the Jordan National Action Plan, which was one of the national action plans that we studied. It says, overlooking the contributions of women that they can make to prevent extremism should be well considered. So here is one of the most important aspects of women's peace and security that I learned that I want to share with you. As my team and I are combing all of the country plans, looking through all the national action plans, getting ready to come to the table with some of our military partners, we were trying to expect what they were going to ask us. And this was our aha moment, because we didn't expect them to ask this. But when we went into Jordan and we met with the most senior female officer there, Colonel Manal, she wanted to talk about gender mainstreaming. A lot of folks don't know what gender mainstreaming is. But it really is, how can we get our males and our females to stand next to one another? Colonel Manal was raised in America. She's a dentist. So she has a lot of Western thought. And she said the Royal Medical Services have already gender mainstream. When you walk into an operating room, you got males and females working next to one another. When you look at their band, the males and females are working right next to one another. But their army as a whole, the males and females, are completely separate, and they need to figure out how to get them to work together. Women are in combat roles, but the males will kind of cower in the corner, and they don't want to stand right next to the females. And so, we have to ask ourselves, why is that? There's a lot of cultural nuances that prevent them from standing next to one another. And one of the nuances is that if a female or a male were to accidentally touch one another, there's marital implications there. So we had a lot of work cut out for us, but I wanted to share that. And where we went, we saw a lot of gender laws that were prohibiting males and females to work inside those armies together. When you're in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and you go into McDonald's, you'll see that there are two distinct lines. There's a male line to get your hamburger, and there's a female line to get your hamburger. And for those of you that don't know, in 2018, women were granted the right to drive. And if we think about that for a moment, here today, if our females were not allowed to drive, what kind of an impact that would have on your family? That would be critical. So back to my slide here. What does it look like for each of us? This is what it looks like for me. Dr. Katherine Johnson, she was the third African-American woman to earn a PhD in mathematics. And she loved going to work every day. And so I admire that about her. She earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She grew up in West Virginia. So did I. She inspired the true movie of Hidden Figures. And then we also have Harriet Tubman here on the slide as well. Our armored scout and spy during the Civil War. She's a Moses that is still followed today. Another lady that I'd like to talk about on this slide is Michelle Howard, Admiral Michelle Howard. Aside from her historical accomplishments, she was also a badass pirate hunter. Only after 3 days on the job leading a Navy task force, she had to figure out how to save Captain Richard Phillips and the MV Mars, Alabama, taking down some pirates. And yeah, that Captain Phillips, that movie. Her decisive actions sent a clear message to those pirates: don't mess with our Navy. And then another lady I'd like to talk about on here, she's currently in the news, is Captain Sunita Williams. And I love what someone said about her. It was a paraphrase from a line from City Slickers. It said, if brains were people, Captain Sunita Williams would be China. At one point, this female astronaut held the record for the most cumulative hours of spacewalking. She spent 322 days in the International Space Station, and she has learned Russian. She ran a marathon in space. She spent her career in the Navy flying helicopters in Operation Desert Shield. She graduated in 1993 from the U.S. Navy Test Pilot School. But I just want to mention that because we want to send our prayers out to Sunny and her teammate Barry Wilmore as they are in the International Space Station today. There's also some men in this picture as well, and that's important because women's peace and security is not just about women. Like Colonel Manaw, my Jordanian friend, it's not just about women, it's also about men as well. So I have a few other men in here that I admire, and Jim Thorpe is one of them. Jim Thorpe, when I see him and I think about Jim Thorpe, I think, man, there are no excuses for whatever task is put in front of you. In this picture, which you probably can't see, he's missing a shoe. And for those of you that don't know, he was competing in the Olympics, and someone had stole his socks and shoes before that competition. He earned gold with 2 different shoes on. So life full of adversity, he overcame any obstacle posed before him. And he'll always forever remain one of the greatest American athletes. And then Booker T. Washington. I have him up here in the corner. Booker T. Washington grew up in the same part of West Virginia. So I think about him a lot. He came out of the rugged mountains of West Virginia, and so did I. So I think about, it's okay to have rugged beginnings, but doesn't mean you're going to have rugged endings. So Booker inspired Martin Luther King, and he inspires me every day. So everybody's women's peace and security experiences and frame, they're all going to look a little different. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Oop. This is a little touchy here. All right, I know you can't see this picture, but this is a very black and white, probably World War I era picture of some naval ladies holding some guns up, pointing right at the camera. And I think to myself, wow, I would not want to mess with these ladies. But maybe some people look at WPS as something that is primitive. Maybe it's too complicated. How do we know that we're moving the needle with women's peace and security? And we don't know that. But I wanted to move here carefully. Must be the heat here. I'm going to try to get this back to the slide that I needed to. I want to take you to my first engagement that I had in Jordan, which was the really could you those folks that control the slides during the briefing, they're really important, by the way. All right, I think I'm moving in the wrong direction. Okay. If anybody needs a copy of these slides, please let me know. I will gladly give them to you. This is also, and I'm kind of skipping over this, this is the U.S. National Action Plan for Women's Peace and Security. There's a lot of words on here. I'm not going to try to sum it up for you there. All right, here I am, my first engagement. This is with the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees. I'm going into Jordan. There's a population of 11 million. It's the size, this country is the size of Indiana. It's very beautiful. The majority of the folks there are Syrian nationals, and of those, there's 1.3 million refugees. You're probably wondering, why would a civil affairs officer, why would the 28th Infantry Division care about refugees? Well, we care because we have to care about the folks that are impacted by our operations. So that's what civil affairs, G7, G9, IO, SIOP, that's part of our effort. Jordan is a very beautiful country. They hold the second highest per capita of refugees in the world. If you don't already know this already, there's a lot of political and financial dynamics in Jordan. It's a very big hotbed for civil unrest. There's a lot of food insecurities, water shortages, eviction notices, debtor's prison. I didn't really understand that holistically, that they have debtor's prison, so you can take out short-term loans. If you can't pay those back, you will go to debtor's prison there. There are concerns with public transportation. When you're coming down the highway, you see a lot of 1990 era vehicles on the road. Sometimes the highway is very well paved, and then it runs dirt road. You see a lot of young children playing along the side of the road, and then you see a lot of women with their babies in tow, and they're on their way to work. They are on their way to look for a job, and these are women that have college degrees. Most of the time, they have master's degrees. So it to me was disheartening to see that that many people on the side of the road with their babies every morning. We're talking like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, but this is the tempo of life that they're living. They are out there, call it hustling. I think you might understand what I'm talking about, but they're hustling to get some money and to feed their families every day. So we work closely with the U.S. Agency for International Development. These are folks that work inside of our U.S. embassies. They're backstoppers. A lot of them are subject matter experts with urban development, transportation, and they are making sure that the money is going into the right places, and that the citizens are finding clean water. Because if you stop any Jordanian and you say, what is the biggest problem in your country? Every single one of them are going to say, hey, we just need water. We just need it to rain more. And if you and I were to look, we'd say, well, that's not the problem that we see. We see a lot of young babies, that need care. We need more jobs, we need more public transportation. But the way they see the problem is they just need more water. So there I am. Keep moving. You can't see that. Sorry about that. But that's me standing next to some of the backstoppers inside the embassy. And they're great because they want to know what we're doing and we want to know what they're doing. And then I can report that back to the staff. Okay. So let's see if I can. This thing is really touchy. Okay. Alright, I'm going to keep moving. This is a slide I can talk about. So this is Colonel Manal. I think I may have mentioned her. She is another engagement that I had in Jordan. She's the most senior female officer in Jordan. She wanted to meet with Task Force Spartan because she wanted to find out what we could provide to the Jordanian Armed Forces in regards to little T training. For those of you that don't know what little T training is, it's about those authorities and responsibilities. Everybody at the division level understands that there's only so much that we can do for our partners. There are other components that have a little more authority and flexibility for what they can do with their partners. The authorities and responsibilities that we were able to provide is that we were able to provide a lot of roundtable talks and a lot of things like this. We were allowed to come around the table and share ideas and concerns. Kind of a 50-50 information share, if you will. But I want to share the fact that Colonel Manal is, she wastes no time in finding out if you're going to waste her time. So this is a quick, fun story. The guy that replaced me, he told me, he said, hey, when you go in to see Colonel Manal, make sure that you've read the entire Jordanian National Action Plan. Probably the first 3 questions in, she's going to ask you what you know about her country. And if you don't, she's going to ask you to leave. She is not afraid to dismiss you from her meeting because she has a lot of work to do, and if she thinks you're wasting your time, she will kick you out of the meeting. So I thought that was kind of enlightening to see that there is someone that is ready to get down to business. Where other parts of the Levant or Middle Eastern culture, they're okay meeting with you for several hours at a time and learning about your family, but some of the Jordanian officers were, hey, let's get to business. What do you got? Let's see if I can move to the next slide. Oh, I think I'm back on slide point here. So here we are with the Canadian team. They had what we call Big T training, so they could spend more time with the Jordanian armed forces, the females. They were able to train with them every day. Here we are meeting for a gender mainstreaming work group. There were 70 other countries that were there. We're all inside this room trying to figure out how can we fix the border crisis with the refugees between Jordan and Syria. And for those of you that have never heard about the drug Captagon, that is something that is decaying the society there in Jordan right now, and it's fueling kind of a bloody war of civil unrest, and it's undermining the economy. So the best way that I can explain it is that because of all the cultural nuances on that border, you have a lot of male border guards that if a female is coming across that border, they will not touch them, they will not shoot at them. That is very bad. So what they've decided to do is that, hey, let's get some female security guards up on that border so that they can be able to pat those females down that are coming across the border. Because guess what? It's the females that are carrying that drug Captagon across the border that is undermining the Jordanian economy. So that is the kind of the big crux of the picture of the border crisis up there. So they've got a lot of the same issues that we do. They've got border issues. They've got drugs. And so here we are, 70 different countries trying to step in. Real quick, I'm not sure how long I'm going here, but the Japanese recently built some beautiful buildings up on the border so that the female law enforcement security guards would feel comfortable staying up there and being away from their babies and their families. We thought that might help the Jordanian women to want to stay there and serve, but not always, because a lot of them have that work-life balance that they're trying to work through. So we come in with our conversations with our D1Es and our sweets and our treats, and we're talking to them about our work-life balance, how tough it is to be a mom, a wife, also serve in the Army, and how we do it. And I think our secret weapon has always been our families. Our families have been there to support us when we do deploy and we serve. And so one of the things that the Jordanian women have had, I guess their mountain to climb, is that their moms and dads don't feel safe with them serving. So there you have it. There's in a nutshell. All right, here we are again, more Jordanian pictures training. And here you can see, as we're building through the slides, you'll see that I brought a lot of attorneys to meet with the Jordanian armed forces. We're all starting to have conversations about the international law and sexual assault, sexual harassment. Those are some of the subjects that they want to talk about. Reporting procedures, what do we do? How can we encourage our females to step forward and start talking about those really, really hard things? Because when a female would report a sexual assault or sexual harassment, there's a trifecta there that, they may not be able to return to serve again. Their families might not think that's a good thing that that's happening to them. So here we are with a lot of these meetings. So here we have the Peace Operations Training Center that we work with as well. So we're having more engagements there. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just rolling through here. I'm not going to bore you with more of these. More subject matter expert exchanges. They wanted to meet with paralegals. They wanted to show the Jordanian women that you can be an attorney, you can be a paralegal. And it's more about the empowerment and creating a friendship and showing them that adversity is something that we all deal with. It's something that is that competition sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad, but it has afforded us opportunities to serve in these positions. I'm going to get back to this one slide. I think I skipped over it. So I think this is important to know. This is the band. This is the Jordanian Armed Forces Band. So we brought our band. General McCormick is a genius to bring our band and to talk about interoperability. Now, the Jordanians are very big into their music culture. And when you can't speak the same language, music is absolutely a great platform to bring people together. And so what we've done here is we've got Jordanian bandmaster meeting with our bandmaster, Chief Burkle. Now, you probably can't see, but everybody in this picture is males, but there's one female. She's Jordanian. Her name is Susanna. And Susanna is an NCO, and because of her, a lot of the Jordanian females have felt comfortable in joining the band. And I learned from the band members that you don't get to choose your instrument. You don't get to choose whether you're going to join the band or not. They just tell you, hey, you're going to be a flute player. Hey, you're going to be a drum player. So they are so they're such talented people. But I wanted to tell you about Susanna real quick, because Susanna has opened up many, many doors for a lot of females, and they understand that it's okay to sit next to a male and be comfortable. We'll keep moving. I'm going to come out of Jordan here, because we've got other countries to cover. I don't want to be putting you guys to sleep, but you can see they want to talk about sexual assault, sexual harassment. They want to talk about the border crisis. They want to talk about international law. They want to practice their English with us. This is some of the big things that they want to talk about. Oh, and drill and ceremony. I'm really big into that. All right. And then last one, they wanted to talk about recruiting and retention. How do we get our soldiers to stay in formation? This is not in my script, my manuscript here, but the Jordanian women for basic training, they'll show up about 9 o'clock in the morning and they leave at noon. They don't stay all day. So they've got babies to feed, they've got groceries to do, they've got a ride to catch. So that's basic training for about a year. And they're already paid. So it's tough to keep them in formation. It's tough to get them up on the border. It's a tough problem every day. But we brought in the G1, which was genius, because the G1 was able to talk to them about how they put their words together, their evaluations, and how it really starts to take care of the soldiers. And career mapping, that's what it's called. All right. So now we're going to move into Kuwait. I know a lot about Kuwait, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So this you can't see because it's tough to see off the laptop here. But this is a women's peace and security invitation from the U.S. Embassy to all of the females in the Kuwait Land Forces. Can you believe that now in the Kuwait Land Forces, females since 2021 are now serving as nurses, and this is huge news for that part of the world. And this is our friend that we met here, and this is my Women's Peace and Security NCO. This is Sergeant Citrisno. I took the advice of Colonel Manal from Jordan when she said, "Hey, we need males in here. Don't just send females. You got to send us males too, so we got to have those hard conversations with the males." So I said, all right, then I'm going to put a male here that's going to help me with women's peace and security. So that was a good thing. I want to tell you about this young lady here. She has a PhD, she has a master's, and she's an E5. And she told us that she'll never go higher than an E5 because of the way that they're set there. So. A second, let me get pointed on my notes here. I doing on time? This is, I put a lot of pictures on this slide. This is the Kuwait Association for Care of Children in Hospice. This is not a hospital. This is a hospice. Back in 2018, I met with General McCormick with a con-op, and I said, sir, the U.S. ambassador has asked us to go inside hospices. There's a lot of children here that have cancer, and their parents need to kind of get a rest for the day. And the ambassador's wife thinks it's a great idea if we go in and just kind of spend time with these children. So General McCormick says he doesn't remember saying it, but I do, because I was really nervous when he said, Harrah, if we go inside these hospices and the media gets a hold of this, what's Iran going to say? What's the enemy going to say if they see us hanging out with these children? And I said, sir, I'm not really sure I'm tracking. He said, I think it's gonna, really tick them off. I said, yeah, it's probably gonna tick them off if they see us caring about kids. And he said, well, then we should do it. So that's what we did. We started, the 28th Infantry Division pioneered this program, and I am proud to report that it is still going on. We had 75 soldiers that showed up to orientation. We told them, hey, every Tuesday, you are going to go play Uno, you're going to go play Candy Lane, you're going to go into a hospice, and you're going to hang out with a child that has cancer. And for the most part, it worked really, really well until I had a soldier come to me and say, hey, this sucks. You didn't tell me my kid was going to die. And I said, well, it is a hospice. But I wanted to share with you that most of the soldiers that come out of there said that was the best day that I've ever had in the Army. And this is why I joined the Army, to be with those that needed me. So you can't see in here, but you've got a lot of generals and some sergeant majors in here playing Legos and working puzzles and spending time with parents. 5 more minutes? Okay, I'll make it quick. So it really, we made a lot of best friends. I'll keep moving. Here we are spending time with the Special Olympics of Kuwait. We have a DOE that we can absolutely work side by side. OGC, Office of General Counsel, said, hey, you have full authority and responsibility to go hang out with the Special Olympics, which we did countless engagements with the Special Olympics. We were in the newspaper many, many times, radio and commercials. Here is a joy in our gathering. It's a big, it's a mid-Ramadan celebration. I brought in some clothing, and I brought in some children's things to show you some of the costumes that the children were wearing. We had Inclusion Day. We invited the Special Olympics to come and hang out with us. Their coaches asked if we could help them with personal hygiene. The kids from Special Olympics there in Kuwait wanted to know, what's it like to be in the Army? How do I salute? How can I stand in formation? So we spent a whole day with them, and that was pretty good. The U.S. ambassador came, and he participated as well. So those are pictures there. Here we are inside hospitals. We brought in some of our Army nurses and doctors to participate with the land forces, making friends. Be Strong Kuwait was a U.S. Embassy program that we worked where we talked about gender-based violence inside several high schools and a lot of sports clubs. We were able to engage with 343 ladies from 17 countries and 1 stateless person. We taught them self-defense over a 30-day period, and that was pretty good. So that's the end of Kuwait. I wanted to spend more time on this, but I'm running out of time, according to the timekeeper here. But this is the Safe Haven operations, Operation Allied Welcome. I actually brought some lessons learned here if anybody wants to dive into this. But this picture here, this slide right here, just to give you an idea of what our guests went through back in 2021. this is something that we reminded ourselves, our civil military team, that those 5 folks that you saw at the beginning of the slideshow, we reminded ourselves every day when we would get these guests, when they were coming off the plane, when they were coming off the bus, just the ordeal that they had been through. And we were there to pick up their bags. We were there to help them run through the gauntlet of having to hand over their things and go through their luggage, and to help them get settled inside the safe haven operation there in Qatar. We try to remind ourselves just how stressful it must be for them. So we wanted to make sure that we gave them the utmost of care when they came off of those buses. A lot of the folks that came to us were women. They were children. They were older. Wheelchairs, walkers, lots of babies. I'll keep moving. This is where we had, a lot of success, but we worked 24/7. There were no days off. There were no hours off. That team was the first folks that these guests, or refugees, but we wanted to call them guests. We didn't want to call them refugees because they were coming to America. So we wanted to get them ready for America. So here you can see that we're trying to keep the children busy. That was one of our jobs, is to make sure that these young bodies were kept moving, because they're in a very small space. They're sleeping in very small quarters, and if you've ever been around young children, if they're not kept busy, they can get a little ornery. You know what that means. So that's what we do. And we did a lot of community meetings. We did weekly community meetings where we would meet with them. We could let them talk about maybe their stresses, what they were going through, their living situations. This gave them a voice. This gave them a good voice to share their concerns and to empower them a little bit, because you can imagine coming through the stressful situation, coming out of Afghanistan, dealing with the Taliban, that some of them had a hard time finding their voice. So we let them do that in some of these community meetings. So it was very powerful for them. And then here we are. I know you can't see this, but here's the food, and it was a really big deal. If you got invited to have tea with them, you better go. If they offered you something to eat, you better take it, because they were opening up. They trusted you. You were building rapport with them. If they wanted to have tea with you, maybe they had something very important to say. So here you can see, maybe you can't, but the little boys are clamoring around our male soldiers. I don't have any pictures, but the little girls would clamor around the female soldiers. They want to braid your hair, and they want to, just be with you. But here we are. So here I have a very big problem. I'm also an engineer, and this is something stuck in the mud. And so this is where I always end the presentation. What's next? Why did you tell me all about that, Amanda? What am I going to do about that? So I just want to, and I'll sum it up really quickly. If you have the opportunity to volunteer, whether it's local, whether it's state or national, please do so. You are absolutely making a difference in your community. If you're not able to do that, then I encourage you to just share a cup of coffee. Take the time to sit with someone and learn about them. There's a lot to be said just to listen. And one of the most important things I've learned with the Army and being a civil affairs officer is to listen more than you talk. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. If there are no questions, sorry if I went over my time. I've got so much more to say. Thank you.